So if you are a parent, you need to pay attention to this, especially if you have a preteen or a teenager. We talked about this earlier this week. A new study is revealing a rise in the number of teenagers who either send or receive explicit sexual texts. According to one study, 1 in 7 teenagers ages 12 to 17 are sexting, and 1 in 4 has received a sexually explicit message on their phone. The study, which focused on data since 2008, was published just this week by the journal JAMA Pediatrics. It defines sexting as the sending or receiving of nude or semi-nude images or sexually explicit text messages. I mean, I am not a parent. However, my mind blew up when I saw this because I think it's a really big problem that parents really need to be aware of. So Dr. Michelle Carcel is here. She's a psychologist in La Jolla. Good morning.
Good morning.
I know when you read this, you too had one of these moments.
You know, it's interesting because I see a lot of families that come in and talk about this and talk about how they don't know how to express this with their kids, how to converse about it. It's so common at these moments. We're seeing this being very normative, unfortunately.
Okay, what do you do? I think part of it is parents need to get over the denial. Oh, my kid's not doing it.
Exactly, yes. So because of what we're seeing in this research, it's actually quite profound. It's about 27% of the kids are receiving and seeing these explicit images. So one of the things we want to do, first things first, parents, you want to check your judgments at the door. We've got to make this a normative conversation, something that doesn't come in with judgments and things like that. Because what ends up happening, and one of the things that we've seen in this study, and studies like it, is that kids do want to tell their parents. They do want to express themselves, but unfortunately they feel shame and embarrassment to do so. Okay,
so what you're saying is a kid, most likely, based on this research, your child probably has one of these sexually explicit photos on their phone. And what you're saying is what you've seen in your practice is these kids have it, they want to tell their parents, but they're afraid of the parents' reaction to it?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
So how do you combat that, first and foremost?
Yes, so the first thing is with parents, you want to work out your own issues with it. So a lot of times when I talk to parents, they're very concerned because they haven't figured out how to have this conversation. It's an uncomfortable conversation to have, and they have their own judgments about it. So first thing, leave your judgments at the door. You want to really make this as smooth as possible to have this conversation with your teens and younger children as well. The second thing you want to do is age-appropriate conversations. So for younger kids who don't really know what's going on, they don't really understand sex yet, they're just getting some of this stuff, which is very scary and unfortunate. You want to prepare them and tell them this is not okay. To receive a message like this is not okay, and really let them know that.
And when you do receive one, if that comes to be, you need to come and tell me immediately.
Yes.
And I'm not you're not going to get in trouble for it, but you need to come and talk to me about it.
Exactly, yes. And with teens, just to add a quick message, you want to be very direct. You want to use the language of sexting. Are you receiving sext messages? What does this mean to you? And tell them to explain it to you, and then let them know, because there's two big things we want to talk about. Not only is there shame and guilt, and also we see with girls there's peer pressure and there's stuff like that, but there's also legal ramifications.
Absolutely. Okay, I want to talk about that part with young girls, because it is spelled out in this study as well. Young teenage girls oftentimes feel peer pressured to send nudes or send this. How do you talk to your daughter about that is not a good idea, and in the long run, that may come back to bite you?
Yes, so one of the things you want to do is really, again, come in this from a self-esteem perspective and letting your child know, letting your daughter know that we have to value our bodies and what that means, and specifically self-esteem, body image issues. A lot of times when we see girls that are developing earlier, they tend to be the ones that take the brunt of this because they are developing. So, you know, to, again, have the conversations early on. We don't want to wait. We don't want it to, you know, wait till it happens. We actually want to cut it off at the pass and talk about these things.
I want to talk to from the parent side of it, because that's probably who's watching us right now are the parents. How important is it, I should say, how important is it for parents to say, check their own worry at the door and say, this is my child. I have every right to look at that phone. When the kids push back and say, you're invading my privacy, what should a parent do? And should a parent be checking their kids' social media and following up on their text messages and find out who they're talking to?
They absolutely can. So one of the things that is very important, and the study also talks about this, is to get to know the social media that they're on. So get familiar with it with yourself. So if you have a Facebook page or Twitter account or Snapchat, get familiar with this lingo, how it works and all of that, then have the conversation with them. I have a lot of parents that they actually friend their kids, so their kids they can see what's going on,
right,
and it's not evasive. And normalizing, again, I do this because I love you. I do this because I'm concerned. I just want to make sure you're safe. A lot of kids can take that a little easier.
I want to just wrap up with this idea. I'm sure you see a lot of kids and they've been involved in this, or perhaps they have been the victim of it. Somebody has posted something inappropriate or explicit of them that was not their consent. Emotionally, what does that do to a young person, a young teenager who has these images out there, whether it be a boy or a girl, because it happens to boys as well? What does that do to their own emotional state?
Right. So with the studies and what we've seen is that when it's consensual, there's not a profound psychological effect. So we do see when it's normal that, we have urges. Sex is a very normal thing. So with teenagers that are consensual, it's not anything that's going to be profound. But when it's not consensual, there's shame, there's guilt, there's fear, ridicule. So it's important to not only have the parents talk, but get educators involved as well, the school, help the child feel better about the circumstance as best you can, and also seeking out professional help is good.
It's always important. All right, parents need to take a firm grasp on what their kids are doing and be proactive. Doctor, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we're going to take